Is it me? Is it now time? Are we actually going, Ryan? Is it happening? Hey, it's happening. Whoa. Just keep going a little bit. I mean, once you go part of the way, you might as well. Welcome to the Nutmeg Tavern. We are live and it's Friday. It's almost the weekend. I'm so excited. You know, we're just coming off of like snow, right? It always snows in April. It always snows in April, no matter how much you say, no, it's not going to snow. It always snows in April. So we had a beautiful snow. It was gorgeous, other than the fact that it was snowing. You don't want snow in April. But it's pretty much all melted now. Thank goodness. We're going to have a warmer weekend. I am John Townsend. I am your host. And we're going to be talking about all things wonderful in 18th century. Well, the wonderful parts of the 18th century. And not behind the bar, because nobody's behind the bar. But Ryan is on the console today.
Hey everyone, it's good to be in here in the Nutmeg Tavern today. Thanks for having me.
Here we go. Are we there? Are we still going, Ryan? See, Ryan's not versed in necessarily all the, it's like making that thing happen, because he doesn't have to do it all that often.
We're here.
Yeah, but we're here. That's the important part. And we got a lot of fun stuff to cover today. I had a couple of different readings and some other material, depending on just how loaded up we get.
We might have an issue.
Yes?
Some people seem like they see video and others don't.
See,
all right, comment for me. Do you see video?
Do you see video?
There he is. There he is. There it goes. I think we're good. Okay, we're good to go now.
You just can't know. See what happens when Aaron's not here? Okay, sometimes even when Aaron's here, that stuff, whatever it's happening that makes this happen, you can't trust it. So I'm going to jump in today. I've got two different readings that I'm really interested in. I'm not sure one to tackle first. I'll tackle this one first because a couple of, it was last Friday or the Friday before. There was a question about wood and water on board ships, and it's a interesting topic. It comes up. I mean, especially if you read in the Aubrey and Maturin series, they're always talking about stopping, getting water, getting wood. You wouldn't think about wood, wouldn't you? It's like, you're on board ship. What do we need firewood for? That's how they're cooking everything on board. And so you need to have this constant supply of firewood. And it's not, it's like, well, obviously you can't get it when you're at sea. And of course you can't get water either, even though you're surrounded by it. So you have this constant need for wood and water. And this is 2 years before the mast by Richard Henry Dana Jr. And yes, that's the same Dana that's connected with Dana Auto Parts and all that kind of stuff. Really big industry around here, part of the same family. Anyway, Dana goes to sea. This is his sort of journal and / recollections of when he was a sailor for a couple of years and he went out to California. And they're in California right now, and it's time to wood and water their ship. Now, he's on a bigger ship. When he starts out on a brig. It's a fairly small ship. He ends up on a big ship called the Alert. And it's time for wood and water. He says, having collected nearly all the hides that we were there to procure, we began our preparations for taking in a supply of wood and water, for both of which San Francisco is the best place on the coast. A small island situated 2 leagues from the anchorage, called by us Wood Island, I have no idea what it's called today, and by the Spaniards Ile de Los Angelos, was covered with trees to the water's edge, and to this 2 of our crew, who were Kennebec men from Maine, and could handle an axe like a plaything, were sent every morning to cut wood, with 2 boys to pile it up for them. In about a week they had cut enough to last us a year. And the 3rd mate, which myself and 3 others were sent over in a large schooner-rigged open launch, which we hired of the mission to take in the wood and bring it to the ship. We left the ship about noon, but owing to a strong headwind and a tide, which here runs 4 or 5 knots, we did not get into the harbor, formed by the 2 points of the island where the boats lie, until sundown. No sooner had we come to than a strong sou'easter, which is wicked storms that come up in that area, which had been threatening us all day, set in with heavy rain and chilly atmosphere. We were in a rather bad situation, in an open boat, a heavy rain, and a long night, for in the winter, in this latitude, it is dark nearly 15 hours. Taking a small skiff, which we had brought with us, we went ashore and found no shelter, for everything was in the open to the rain, and collecting a little wood, which we found by lifting up the leaves and brush and a few mussels, we put on board again and made the best preparations in our power for passing the night. We unbent the mainsail and formed an awning with it over the after part of the boat and made a bed of wet logs of wood. Doesn't that sound nice? And with our jackets on, we lay down about 6 o'clock to sleep. Finding the rain running down upon us, and our jackets getting wet through, and the rough, knotty logs rather indifferent couches, we turned out, taking an iron pan, which we'd brought with us, we wiped it out dry, put some stones around it, cut the wet bark from some sticks, striking a light, made a small fire in the pan. Keeping some sticks near to dry, we covered the whole over with a roof of boards, and we kept up a small fire by which we cooked our mussels. So they'd gotten mussels from the seashore, and we ate them, rather for occupation than from hunger. Still, it was not 10 o'clock, and the night was long before us, when one of the party produced an old pack of Spanish playing cards from his monkey jacket pocket, which we hailed as a great windfall. And keeping a dim and flickering light by our little fire, we played game after game till 1 or 2 in the morning, when, becoming really tired, we went to our logs again, one stirring up at a time in turn to keep the watch over the fire. Toward morning the rain ceased, the air became sensibly colder, so that we found sleep impossible. We sat up, watched for daybreak. No sooner than it was light that we went ashore and began our preparations for loading our vessels. We were not mistaken in the coldness of the weather, for white frost was on the ground, a thing we had never seen before in California. And 1 or 2 puddles of fresh water were skimmed over with a thin coat of ice. In this state of weather, before sunrise, in a gray morning, we had to wade off nearly up to our hips in water to load the skiff with wood by armfuls. The third mate remained on board the launch. 2 more stayed in the skiff to load and manage, and all the wet work, as usual, fell upon the 2 youngest of us. And there we were, with frost on the ground, wading forward and back from the beach to the boat with arms full of wood, barefooted, our trousers rolled up. When the skiff went off with her load, we could only keep our feet from freezing by racing up and down the beach on the hard stand as fast as we could go. We were all day at this work, and towards sundown, having loaded the vessel as deep as she would bear, we hove up our anchor and made sail, beating out of the bay. No sooner, they did all this work, they're finally going back out to the ship. No sooner had we got into the large bay than we found a strong tide setting us out to seaward, and a thick fog which prevented our seeing the ship, and a breeze too light to set us against the tide, for we were as deep as a sand barge. By the utmost exertions, we saved ourselves from being carried out to sea, and we were glad to reach the leewardmost point of the island, where we came to and prepared to pass another night, more uncomfortable than the first, for we were loaded up to the gunwale and had only a choice among logs and sticks for a resting place. The next morning we made sail at slack water with a fair wind and got on board at 11 o'clock, when all hands were turned to unload and stow away the wood, which took till night. I don't know about you, but I've had some nights like that, camping or whatnot, when, sleep just wasn't going to happen. It was cold, it was raining, you don't have what you need, it's just miserable upon miserable. Those are the times you remember, right? So that's, he's gonna, when he writes these things down, probably, all he would need would be one tiny little, 3-word entry in his diary to remember the whole scene that went on a night like that, that one that you never forget.
Enzo Vinci is in chat. Hasn't been for a little while, it seems like. Finally able to watch live. It's good to have you.
There we go.
We can get into some super chats real quick, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Heather is in super chat. Round of tea on me for sipping while listening.
Thank you.
Max, you're cool. I love hearing journal selections. Thank you, John. Colin K. I accepted a promotion at work this week. I think it was my vast knowledge of 18th century cooking that won them over. Time to splurge on Townsends Plus.
Undoubtedly.
That's pretty funny. And then Sue O'Connor is in super chat. What Townsend's catalog vessel would you recommend for brewing ginger or other ale?
Wow. I don't know. Brewing ale or whatnot in one of our vessels. Ooh. You could try it in one of the kegs, but I don't know. And you know what? I forgot to bring a catalog up, Ryan.
Oh.
Dough.
I can grab you one here in a moment.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about that one. The stoneware bottles are interesting, but you know, you probably, if you're going to be making any quantity, you're going to just use glass bottles, probably reused bottles.
Yeah, that's a that's a hard question to answer. I've got another super chat in here. It looks like Pat's fan. Hey guys, love your stream, fellas. Cheers.
Thank you.
And then, where did you say this reading was taking place at?
This is 2 years before the mast by Dana, and the time period is the 1830s, so probably 1835, my guess is, this particular reading. And this book got very, very popular in the 1850s or so because it was one of the only books written by an American about what California was like. So the gold rush happens, everybody wants to go out to California, but there's nothing to tell them what California is like at all. And so this is one of the few books, even though he didn't go there, you know, by land, which a lot of people did, and he didn't go there for gold, he at least describes what California is like, even though he describes it from sort of the seaward point of view.
Yeah, they were kind of taken aback that you were talking about California so early.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, well, there's a lot of California stuff going on, but you know, it's all from the Spanish direction.
Don's asking if I consider this a promotion or a demotion. I would say this is a lateral move.
Yeah, it's just a lateral move. Everybody here has to be able to wear multiple hats, so you know. Thank goodness we have stand-in people that can shuffle around and do multiple kinds of jobs, and Ryan does an excellent job at that.
All right, guys, we need to get some likes in here today. We're at 312 right now. If we get this early, we'll get to that 1,000, and that's where we need to be.
There it is. See, Ryan didn't have to do it. Look at that. Ooh,
just came out of nowhere.
The brand new catalog just showed up this week. And like I said before, Ryan did a amazing job on the catalog this year. If you are interested in getting one of these beautiful print catalogs, you can go to our website, townsends.us, and I think you'll find a link down at the bottom. Where will they find the link? Find a link there down at the bottom that says request a catalog.
Right. And
you can sign up and we will send you a catalog. We send them out bulk rate, so it takes a little bit of time because we build them up and then send them out by bulk rate. You can, if you're in a hurry, order one. You'll have to pay for shipping though.
Super chat just came in from Mike Howell. Happy Friday. Townsends absolutely love the journal readings. Thanks for this awesome live stream and all the awesome content.
Thank you. I can't say too many good things about this particular book, 2 years before the mast. If you are interested in journals or just, you know, memoirs of people from the time period and especially a sailor's life, you know, this is early 19th century, but it's not very far off of what's going on earlier than that. You get to hear about all the sails and the rigging and the dangers of that and the drudgery and the fun times and bad times. Dana does an amazing job of, I mean, it's not very often that learned people that are that are want to write books end up being the people that are sort of at the bottom. Those are kind of rare situations, and this is one of those where you get somebody who was a common sailor, but yet he tells you all about what's going on. There are a few other ones that are really interesting, good, but this one is an excellent read. I would always recommend it for teenagers and children too.
Yeah, somebody just said that they read it in college and they'd forgotten how good it was until you start talking about it. So, a lot of people are excited about the catalog. Make sure to grab one.
Yeah.
And yes, the cover was from our time on the ship. So that was actually scheduled to be a photo shoot. Mm-hmm. And then we decided to try to get a couple of videos out of it when we were there.
It's hard for me to go anywhere without saying, hey, well, maybe we should do a video.
In classic Townsends fashion, everything does turn into a video somehow. Okay, so you had another reading?
Yeah. So that's Dana, and this one is totally disconnected. The only reason why I'm doing them both is because they're, in my cycle of reading right now, and I get interested about a particular thing. Now, this book is The Bark-Covered House. We talked about it a lot before. This is William Nolan. He writes this memoir in the 1870s about his childhood in Michigan in the 1830s. At the time, he was 10, 12, 13 years old. But he writes about his time in this when Detroit, right, just outside of Detroit, is the frontier at that time period. So it's funny for us to think about that now, going to someplace within a couple miles of Detroit, and it's just only woods. There's nobody that lives for miles around. And so this is just, again, an amazing, wonderful read from someone who he talks about here that he never went to school after he left New York. So he didn't have any schooling after he was, say, 10 years old. But he's a great author here. And there are times, of course, it's classic, that type of literature where it'll just go off on a rabbit trail at times, and you're thinking, where's the editor here? I'm going to clean this up a little bit, take that story out. It doesn't add anything to it. So there are times when it needs a little editing just for, not because it's poor material, but just because he's like, dude, stop.
One more time, this is The Bark-Covered House.
Yeah, this is called The Bark-Covered House by William Nolan. If you're interested in some of these books, there's the Amazon affiliate link down in the description section. That's a list of a lot of different books that we don't carry, but you can find on Amazon. If you purchase them through that, of course, we get a little, which is always helpful to the channel. So, Chapter 10, how we got into trouble one night and I was scared. So, let's see. I think he was, let me see if I can find out where we were. They were out hunting. His father and he were out hunting. It says, they were able to get a deer. We were tired and hungry, and our feet were wet from traveling through the soft snow. As Mr. Reed had moved away from there was no one in the house. So they're at an abandoned house. We went in and kindled a fire in the fireplace. The way we did it, I took some punk wood out of my pocket and held flintstone over it, struck the flint with my knife, and the punk soon started fire. We put a few whittlings on it and then some sticks that we gathered in the way by the house, and we soon had a good fire and were warming and drying our feet. This punk I got from soft maple trees. When I wanted some, I went into the woods and looked for an oldish tree. I looked up, and if I could see some black knots on the body of the tree toward the top, I knew that there was punk wood in it. And I would cut it down and then cut halfway through the log above and below the black knot and split it off. And in the center of the log, I was sure to find punk wood. Sometimes in this way, I got enough to last a year or two from the tree. It was of a brown color and was found in layers which were attached and adhered together. When I chopped a tree, I took all of it I could find, and I carried it home, and I laid it up in a place where it would get drier, and it was always ready to use. We had to use the utmost precaution not to get out of this material. Sometimes I have known my little Michigan sister, Abby, to go more than a quarter of a mile to Blair Place to borrow fire. On such occasions, we had to wait for breakfast until she returned. I do not know that the fire was ever paid back, but I do know that we had callers frequently when the errand was to borrow fire. When I went hunting, I was careful to take a piece of this with me. I broke it or tore it off. It was something like tearing old cloth. And with this, a flint and a jackknife, I could make a fire in case night overtook me in the woods and I could not get out. Fire was our greatest protection from wild animals and cold in the night. This was the way we kindled our fire in the Reed house before Lucifer matches or telegraph matches were heard of by us, although they were invented as early as 1833. After we got a little comfortable and rested, and the wood burned down to coals, we cut some slices of venison, laid them on the coals, and roasted them. Although we had no salt, the meat tasted very good. It's always like that when you're super cold. You've had a very, very hard day outside, and whenever you're working outside in those kinds of conditions, it's cold, it's rainy, and you're doing all these things, and it just takes it out of you, doesn't it? It's just like it's draining to be in that sort of situation. So they take shelter in an abandoned house. They heat it up, they make their fire, and then all they have is the venison. That's it. They don't have anything else. They don't even have a ship's biscuit with them. Not even that. So it's like cut some steaks, throw it right on the coals, cook it up, and then the best meal ever. Have you ever been in a situation like that? I know I have. When it's just like, even though it's the simplest thing.
Right. Okay, Lucifer matches?
Lucifer
People are
matches.
asking.
Yeah, Lucifer matches. Sometimes they were called just Lucifers because they were made with sulfur. They had that sulfury kind of smell, right? So yeah, those strike matches are an early 19th century thing here. He says 1833. I think it's about right. Although there are different sorts and kinds of matches that are going on in the time period. Some experiments with that, and some of them are very dangerous. Sort of, like they'll burst into flames when you don't expect it. Maybe when they just touch each other. Kind of whoops. Some things are like matches, but you really need to have a little bit of fire so that they're really moving fire from one place to another. But some of them you're striking them or making them ignite.
Okay, yes. Somebody just commented, can you purchase Jim's Red Pants music on our website? Yes, just go to townsends.us. Yes. Also, excuse me. Also, so apparently the link for requesting a catalog in the description is not working for everyone. So I dropped a new link in the chat. Perfect. If you didn't see it, just scroll up.
Excellent.
All right, John, we got some super chat stuff. There was one about panada. There it is. Okay, so this one, in your panada video, you say that it changed towards the 19th century, but I didn't quite get how. Could you please explain? I love your content.
Yeah, so panada moves from something that is really kind of not necessarily always meant for sick people, but moves from being something that you're feeding sick people, maybe children, whatever, anyone who has a sort of sensitive digestive system, to something that's used in cooking a little bit more and tends to get mixed with sort of meats. So they'll take a panada, so they'll take all that, sort of the bread sauce, as it were, or the bread soupy kind of stuff, and they'll take meat, like chicken, let's say. They'll cook the meat and then pulverize it so that it is of the same consistency, almost just like not chicken broth, but chicken pulverized until it's a pate. They'll mix it with that. And so sometimes those were still called panadas later on, even though they take more than just bread. And panada has that root of pan, which has to do with bread, right? So the original one was all about bread, and then later on, panada changes too, where they might use rice instead of bread, and they'll add different things to it. So it starts to describe, a consistency and a type of dish rather than what it's being made out of.
Okay, and here's another question from Super Chat Moses. Have you ever done a show on the coins of the colonial era? How common were the coins of the places in 1700s America? Were they all silver and gold?
Yeah, I'm going to have another coin. I think we've done one, but if we did...
We did a live stream.
Yeah.
On it, and it was about this time last year.
Was it just last year?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
Did I have the coins here?
I think it was during our time period of quarantine from COVID.
Who can remember?
Yeah.
We do so many live streams that I can't... We've got another one coming up. I've got a special one coming up, but it's going to take me some prep time. So you're going to have to give me a little bit of time. I'm going to guess that it's going to be at least 2 live streams from now.
I haven't even heard about this. I'm excited. Something super special.
It's a secret. Don't tell anyone out there. But yeah, we'll be doing a coin kind of special thing, and I'll be doing some extra research and extra work on our money episode because everyone's interested in money.
Hey, can you talk a little bit about your process that you went through when molding the coins that we sell?
Right now?
I mean, sure, why not? It was interesting.
You sure?
I mean, is that part of your talk? Is that going to be part of...
No, it's not going to be part of the talk.
If you don't want to talk about it, it's okay.
I mean, it's like secret, proprietary.
Oh, okay, never mind. Don't do that.
I don't want to give away all our secrets.
Yeah, that's true. We gotta have secrets. Okay, but yes, it's coming up. It's gonna be special. Okay, all right. So Moses, there we go. John Talley, I need some help on cooking with fire. Controlling heat is a bit harder than I thought. I've had some big failures. Any good 18th century info out there? Did they just know how to cook with fire because that's all they have? Oh man, this got me yesterday. Actually, I didn't tell you about that.
Yeah. So it turns out that and people are always complaining. People aren't always complaining. We get some interesting comments. It's like he burnt this, he burnt that. It's like, yeah, I burn stuff all the time. When you're working with fire, it does things you don't expect it to do, right? So every day we go into our kitchen at home and, we've either got these electric burners, we got gas, hopefully gas, because that's even more controllable. We can get just tiny little fires and great big fires. It always stays exactly the same unless we mess with the knobs. And that is never happening with 18th century cooking. I mean, never. Yeah. So, just like the oven, we chuck it full of fire, we get it way too hot, and then we click the door on it, and then we wait for it to get just the right temperature to put the stuff in, and then it's slowly cooling down again. You gotta fight that, and that's something that's at least a little bit more controllable. And I don't even want to tell you how many times I burnt something in those ovens. And then there's over an open fire, which is it's like it's too cold. It's too hot. It's burning everything. Flames are all over. The oil's on fire. It's just like...
I love those recipes where it's like, this was what got me yesterday, where you have to mix an egg yolk into cream and then add it, but not have it hot enough that it cooks the egg.
Yeah, be careful.
That one got me a little bit.
It is not easy to cook in that manner. So if you thought the recipes were difficult to follow, well, try dealing with cooking over an open fire, and we do that almost all the time. I mean, we very rarely sort of cheat our way through an episode, and use other cooking methods.
But we didn't give him any advice.
Well, the advice is that you have to do it a lot.
Yeah.
You have to start with small fires. Expect that sometimes it's going to take twice as long to cook it as you expect, because you should be working with a smaller fire. It's much easier to say, oh, this fire is too small rather than it's too large. I fight the big fires all the time, and if you do that, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, this is the fire, and you're always like, you'll have the pan, you're cooking. You have to be very careful. You have to be ready to move off the fire all the time. When you've got a bigger fire, and you have the extra difficulty of a fireplace that which is quite often the case in the 18th century, where you have to have a particular size of fire or else the room fills with smoke, right? Unless you have a lot of flame going up there, it depends on the weather and all that, it won't draw. So you kind of are forced to have a certain size fire going on, and you can pull different small fires over out of the way.
For me, it's like
right?
You have the big fire that you borrow from.
Exactly.
And then you can always add to, and you've got your constant flame.
Right. So you've always got this kind of fire going on and, banks of coals and, it's drawing the smoke away over there. And then you bring little bits of fire over to work with. And, it's always needing tended constantly. It's like, oh, I need to add a little bit. Oh, that's a little too much. Move the pan. Just takes a lot of work.
Can you talk about what punk wood is? Some people think it's the same thing as fat wood, possibly, but
no. In this case, now fat wood is sort of that, especially pine, where you get a very, very dense resin-soaked wood at the bottom of a pine tree. Say, punk wood is kind of the opposite. What you're looking for is fungusy, rotten wood. And that's why he was talking about the black spots. So he'd look for a tree that was diseased or dead even, and look for a diseased spot in the tree where the fungus had gone in and eaten the wood. And that's what he talks about. It tears like cloth, or even, charred cloth, or sort of very, very weak cloth. So it's, what's happening is as that fungus eats the wood, it creates all these very, very small and intricate holes in that. He couldn't even see them necessarily, but that's what's going on with that fungus. So it's leaving behind the fungus, it's leaving behind all these little pockets of air. And the particles are so small that when a spark hits it, it actually catches and starts an ember burning in that spot. It is almost impossible to take a spark and get it to catch on anything other than charred fabric or something that's already charred. Not even just charred wood. It's almost impossible to get a spark to catch on, say, like a coal or a piece of, charcoal. Won't catch. So you need something that's very, very frayable. So charcloth, this punk wood, which was not pre-cooked, but actually, there are different kinds of these funguses that will do this, but that will catch, and possibly the inside of, is it a mullein? There's there are plants. There's a very, very few plants that will do that also.
Somebody in the chat left a wonderful comment, and let me see. It was, they never had nutmeg, and they were buying some today, and they wanted to know from you, what is the first thing they should try it on?
Well, I put it on everything.
But
okay.
What is the first thing if you've never had it?
I mean, really, it's in every recipe, okay? They used it a lot like we would use vanilla today. It's an aromatic more than it is a flavor. So I really like it in drinks. It's very, very good in something like, they used hot chocolate as a breakfast drink. Very, very popular in the time period. So it's really good in something like that, where you get the chocolate and that mixes with the aromatic, although chocolate sometimes has vanilla in it and you don't even know it. So, that's a really good place to experiment with it. But really just start off by grating a little bit and smelling it and thinking about what that's going to go with when you're eating some things. So, I do put it in my tea all the time. I really enjoy it in tea, and it's an interesting aromatic to use in different things. But think about things that you would put vanilla in and say, yeah, it might go really well in that. Probably even, on ice cream, whatever.
A lot of people are commenting hot chocolate and or coffee.
Yeah, coffee, sure. I'm not a big coffee drinker.
It's got to be the right coffee, though, so be careful about that.
Right, that's why you got to get the Nutmeg Tavern coffee that's just the specific kind of flavor for that.
Absolutely. Eggnog is also good, but that's not the right
No,
time of year for
there
that.
you go,
All right. Kevin is in Super Chat. Kevin says, how about 1,000 likes for John to eat the old pemmican he showed us last week?
It's here still. I don't know if I'm ready for that though.
We're at 592 likes
Whew,
right
I got
now.
safe. It's not gonna. Oh, you guys will never get there. You'll never get there. Oh, and another name for this, like punkwood, and specifically the fungus part is the chaga mushroom or chaga fungus. So that's something you can look at. I think it's CHAGA. And it doesn't really grow around here, but it does grow up in Michigan. And a lot of times it grows on the bark of, I think it's birch trees, I think. That's where you usually find those kind of nodules, and it's growing on living trees.
Sue O'Connor sent a super chat that says, people might be confused by catalog references. They're looking on Amazon for Townsend's merchandise.
Ooh, yeah, it's complicated, isn't it? There's two different things going on here. So thank you, Sue. The catalog is the Townsend's kinds of stuff that we have, clothing, camping goods. If you need a tricorn hat and like a lot of our cookware, the ceramic cookware and whatnot. If you need to camp over, with cooking over a fire, or you need a tomahawk, you'll find those things in the Townsend's catalog. Now, there are some things, the Amazon store is just where you're going to find things like The Bark-Covered House, and 2 Years Before the Mast, and some books that we don't print. Now, some of the books we do print, and those you'll find on our website, townsends.us, but there's not enough room in the catalog for all those. Did we just list book titles in this guy?
Yeah, for the most part.
But
they're not all in there either. The website is the best place to find all of our books, but we put most of the popular ones in the catalog.
Yeah.
There's only so many pages that you can put books on.
Yeah. Besides, books, they're boring. I mean, you don't need a pretty picture for a book, right?
Right. Did they have thick work gloves in the 18th century?
Thick work gloves? I don't know. Really good, interesting question. I haven't, dealt with that many period gloves. Those are the kinds of things that wear out, and the kind of gloves that still exist are, dainty little dress gloves. So what did their work gloves look like? Well, they don't last. So they're not the kind of thing we generally have a good idea about what they were like.
We have had 100 new likes since you said they wouldn't make it to 1,000.
They'll never get it. Just don't. I'm okay.
All right. Okay, so speed and
hurry up, clock.
Speed and style, Tony. I am looking for a journal by an AWI Hessian soldier. I saw it once, but can't locate it now, and don't know the title. Do you know this one?
AWI Hessian soldier. It just says AWI?
That's all I've got.
Well, there's the Hessian's book that we've got that has multiple different journals from Hessian soldiers. There's actually a couple. There's Pops in there, and there's a couple other ones. Some of them are just small little pieces. So those are the ones I know about off the top of my head. And some other ones come to mind, but only vaguely, not so I can give you any references. So, journals. I'll see if I can come up with a couple of different ideas there for you. Can you remember? The question is there something about that journal, a particular instance, or what they were doing that is something you're interested in, and is that something that'll help us key into which journal that you're looking for?
Okay. So I'll try to keep my eye on the chat and see if I can find that for you. Speed and style, Tony. Brisboys, it looks like, is in super chat. Are there any native European American spices or herbs that used to be common in cooking that aren't really known anymore?
So, nutmeg's one of those ones that is just massively popular, but sort of disappears. There are other, spices. I mean, most of the spices have stuck around. Herbs are another thing, and sometimes they're not necessarily talked about all that much with food and with cooking, but you'll see them referred to in medical situations, and so those are the ones that I think you kind of see disappear. In food, that's a little trickier. Either they're talked about, they don't really mention, they kind of expect you to know what herbs are going to fit in things. So they'll even say something like, add sweet herbs here, or add the appropriate herbs, and they won't bother to mention them because they know you know what they are, or the ones that work in your area. So different places are going to have different ones that are popular, but they're going to fit in that kind of dish. So it's like, yeah, don't forget to add the herbs, the ones you know you always do. So I am not sure about ones that have disappeared.
I gotta echo this. Somebody said rosewater seems to have disappeared in good riddance.
Yeah, talk about aromatic. Rosewater's like that. It doesn't taste like anything, but the aroma will just, we connect that aroma with soap. And so it immediately makes us think, I don't eat soap, right? So it's one of those scents that has, at least for us, been stolen away and used for something else. And so those smells we connect with particular things, and we just can't separate them.
David Denelius in Super Chat. Did charcloth technology just disappear? I'm surprised he only relied on punkwood.
Yeah, I thought it's one of those interesting takes, and it's one of the reasons why I kind of pulled it out here. And it seems like, different people are going to be using different technologies. Now, if you don't have a tree, and you don't have the kind of fungus that does what you need to do, then you use something else. Charcloth isn't always the easiest to use. It isn't, it necessarily isn't always the easiest to make. And it could be that punkwood took over in this situation because it was just so much better. And sometimes you make that by pre-charring it in some circumstances, but he was obviously using the non-charred kind, the actual tree fungus type.
Okay, so we've got another super chat that says, just got my check. Got to stimulate the economy. Thank you all for everything you do.
Thank you.
Amanda is in super chat. Got a raise yesterday. My gain is your gain. Thanks for being here every Friday. Very cool. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Running Wolf is in super chat. That's 2 raises that people have talked about in super chat today. Awesome. Running Wolf sends in a donation without a comment. Rick says, making pepper pot over the fire now. Can confirm about fire being tough.
Yeah, exactly.
Justin, do 18th century journals ever mention fishing, specifically angling, as a food source? 18th century fishing would be an interesting Townsends Plus topic. Man,
The book is always just out of reach.
It's like you read it in our mail.
Yeah, the Diary of Matthew Patten specifically talks about building a fish trap and collecting fish and selling them. And other fishing is happening just like that. Not necessarily fish trapping, but just fishing. So some of those journals definitely talk about that. And what is it? Even in Nicholas Cresswell, who is traveling into the back, woods of Kentucky, they're coming back, and he says, we're even out of our fish hooks. We don't even have fish hooks now, because that's what they were using as another means of supplying their food needs while they're traveling in the wilderness.
Beatrice is in super chat. Can you recommend journals from women, especially showcasing the daily lives of people who weren't wealthy?
There's not a lot, but I would definitely recommend. You can find the actual text of Martha Ballard's diary online. So look up Martha Ballard, and if you want a sort of an interpretation of that, then A Midwife's Tale is a good book to check into, and she draws a lot of connections and a lot of information out of the diary. And it is an amazing piece that was saved. Untold number of people have collected have written down the diary, and it just disappears. and it's lost and gone forever. It's really interesting that this diary survives, and that if it weren't for this diary, that person would be known only in one or two just tiny little references within all of recorded history, right? So Martha Ballard was this amazing person who was a midwife. She lived all these years, had children, and but yet you will only find her referenced, other than her diary, in like the marriage record and just maybe one other place, and that's it. And yet, we have the diary. So that one would be the one just to check into first.
How common were things like basements or cellars in the time period?
Cellars, yes, for storage of foodstuffs that you wanted to keep cool. Now, is that a cellar? Like, it's not like a basement, right? Which is almost like a lower floor in every way, on your house. But a cellar might just be a small room down below, or it might even be outside. But definitely a place for storage of things you wanted to keep cool, dry. You have obviously, in some places you can't do a cellar. So,
somebody was asking about how they were harvesting wild mushrooms, and if they were considering the dangers that are there.
I have no idea. That's an impossible call. Not a lot of people are writing about that. If I was, the first place I would go and really dig looking for that would be, what does Peter Kalm say as he's going? I think that's definitely a cultural thing. And it's funny, even now you go from region to region. So, you go to Maine and they eat chanterelle mushrooms. I don't know if chanterelles really grow around here, but morels will grow out there and they think they're poison. Or, certain segments of people are like, I would never eat that. That's terrible. And here, it's the greatest, most wonderful thing in the universe. And everybody waits for this time of year to go out and hunting that mushroom. And, but, knowing which mushrooms you can eat and which ones you can't, tricky stuff.
Were they clued into the healing properties of aloe vera?
Don't know. I have not seen it referenced, but you can dig into the actual medical books on materia medica and see if that's referenced. I haven't noticed it, but there's thousands of things listed. So,
Grace says, "I regret that I have but one like to give to Townsend's live stream," which cracked me up. Rob Poole is in Super Chat. As a bigger 4XL dude, does Townsends do custom orders for bigger shirts, breeches, vests? Seems like the sizes on most items are just below my sizing.
Ryan?
I am a bigger dude as well, and I wear Townsend's clothing all the time. It depends on, when you get into things like coats, it gets a little bit more difficult. Things like breeches are pretty difficult, but basic trousers, you should call customer service about. Shirts, short jackets, that hunting frocks, that's all ready to go.
Yep.
Just depends kind of on how the patterns are made for particular things. All right. That catches me up with everything I have written down. We're not quite ready to go. So
no.
Read some crazy recipes.
So I dug up... we got England's Newest Way, which is mostly a cookbook, but it's got some wonderful cures in the back. I thought you would enjoy some of these. Number 18, which anyone can use, which is for stinking breath, right? Take 2 handfuls of cumin and stamp it to a powder, boil it in wine, and drink the syrup thereof morning and evening for 15 days, and it'll help. That's what it says here.
Cumin relieves stinking breath?
What? I don't know. And this one is a twofer. It does 2 things: to make teeth white and to kill worms. Right? So if you have teeth that aren't white and you have worms, take salt in the morning fasting, and hold it under your tongue till it be melted, and then rub your teeth with it.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I don't know.
You don't think so?
I'm not sure about that one. This is not medical advice. It's good to clean the mouth every morning by rubbing the teeth with sage leaf, citron peel, or powder made with cloves and nutmegs. You must forbear all meats of ill digestion and raw fruits. Raw fruits? Well, who would eat raw fruits? That's to clean the mouth. And if you have the running in the ear, which I'm not sure is either tinnitus or your ears are leaking. I'm not sure. Take the juice of elder, drop it in the ear of the party grieved, and cleanse the matter and the filth thereof. Duh. Also, the juice of violets used is very good for the same purpose. Ooh, this next one, that one looks good. For eyes that are blood hot.
My eyes
Maybe that's like glowing red.
My eyes are feeling rather hot today.
Blood hot. Take the root of red fennel and stamp them, wring out the juice, then temper with clarified honey and make the ointment thereof and anoint the eyes therewith, and it will take away the redness. See,
Man,
they can't go wrong. Who needs a doctor?
Frank says, how about an 18th century Mythbusters episode?
Okay.
That could be fun.
Mythbusters?
You just disappointing everybody who believed this false thing about history. That could be fun.
Just ruin it all, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so how about recipes that you will never see on 18th century cooking? We won't do this recipe.
Well, you're positive already.
I'm positive.
No.
I will never do this recipe. So, I mean, it sounds one thing when you get started, and then you'll actually figure out the reason why we don't do it later on. But it's called to dress a cod's head. Now, right up front, it's like, I don't know. I don't know what, eating a cod's head, Anyway. Cut 3 inches of the cod's shoulder towards the head, and then rub the head all over with very strong vinegar and cover it with salt for an hour before you put it in to boil. And have hard water to boil it. Let the fire be very good, for it must boil very fast, an hour. Skin 8 whitings and dip in batter and fry in clarified butter. Well, now that sounds all right. Drain the head over the water. So now we've skipped back. So we got the whitings that we're cooking, and we've been boiling our head. Now we take the water. The head. Drain the head over the water it was boiled in. And while it is draining, take off all the black skin. Right there is one of the things that, it's like, I don't know. And am I going to eat a fish's head that has black skin on it?
Somebody's going to comment in here and be like, what are you talking
that's the
about?
best way.
Yeah.
Exactly. Then, when the fish is boiling... So we've already done the whiting, but now we're gonna. Is the fish still boiling or is it draining? Doesn't matter. Break a lobster and take out all the meat, and cut it small, and boil it up in melted butter. Grate some nutmeg, add ketchup, red wine, each a spoonful. Cut some of the liver of the lobster. I don't know. Cut some of the liver and dip into batter and fry that. Then take the long, small bones out of the fish's jaw fins. So it's got those jaw fin things because they have like the big whiskery things on cod. Anyway, you stick on each end mushrooms on the cod's head, right? So it's got these whiskers, and you stick mushrooms on the end of those. Oysters, bayberry. Set the head on a dish, let it be hot, lay your forced fish around it, I think they mean the whitings or the lobster meat, and the livers all over the head, stick the jawbones between, lay fried parsley and horseradish and bayberries round the dish edge, and send it to the table.
Sounds like a beautiful dish.
It's just going to be gorgeous, but I mean, it would take you like all day. You have to have 3 people cooking at once, and then what's underneath all that? A cod's head.
Somebody in here says cod's tongue stew is as far as I will go. It's a delicacy here. There are people in the chat that are commenting about cod's cheeks being very good.
I can imagine.
Well, one thing that stands out is somebody that commented, wait, a cod has shoulders?
Well, I mean, this was... I think you know what they meant.
Yeah,
I
they got
guess.
it across. Okay, I've got a super chat from Lane. John, what's your favorite adult beverage? Love the show.
I actually enjoy Madeira and port wine, sweet wines, as a, I'm not really, like a brown ale might be nice. I don't really, not big into bitter ales or anything like, or bitter beers. So there you go.
You have any more recipes that we'll never ever do?
No, that's it.
That's the only one.
I thought that was so. That's we can talk about future live streams. We can do other dishes. We will never.
I like that segment. I don't
Maybe
even think
tasting
it's-
history. Maybe Max wants to do
Somebody
that.
actually said if Townsends won't do this, we've got to talk Max into it.
There you go, Max. You want that one? It's all yours.
Right, it's a call out. Yeah, we want to do it, and it's probably not even because of the cod's head part. It's all the steps and the intricacies. That would just be that's a lot. We got a super chat. D Renee, I think. Yeah, D Renee. I did it right. Thank you. Enjoying Townsends Plus on my LG phone with no problems.
Great. I'm
That's what
glad
we
to
wanna
hear it's
hear.
working out for you.
And somebody did say, hey, Ryan, we need a new Unpacking the Pantry episode. We filmed one yesterday. I don't know when it's coming out, but I'm imagining next week.
We will make those editors really work hard on it.
Cranking the wheel. Somebody, Azero Phoenix, if I am buying raw land to homestead, what book do you recommend to guide me?
There was some interesting homestead books that really came out when, I don't know, maybe it was 2 cycles ago when people were in that, hey, let's go out and do land. So I don't know. That's I would look at homesteading books of the last 40 years. There's been a lot, sort of waves of that going on. So I don't have any off the top of my head for that. And the way land is right now, it's like, is it land? Oh, then I'll buy it. I don't even care what it is. It's really hard to find neat pieces of real estate right now.
All right. I think that's time to wrap her up.
It's been a good one. And again, if you're interested, the 2 Years Before the Mast, great book. There's so many great books out there that read like that. The Bark Covered House, excellent book. Again, if you want something that's very, very digestible in the sort of Revolutionary War time period and somebody going into the backwoods, then the Journal of Nicholas Creswell and Soldier, Revolutionary War, the Joseph Plum Martin book, sometimes called Private Yankee Doodle or Memoirs of an American Soldier, whatever. Again, just excellent reads. Can't recommend them enough. Definitely check those out. Thank you, Ryan, for doing all that work on the console. It has to happen, and you made it happen. And thank you guys out there. Wait, I still have new Patreon people. I can't let it go. New Patreon people this week. Last week, I wasn't able to get to it. Jerry Byerly, Dan Caulfield, Robin Allman, somebody just Annie, and then there's just a Michael. There's Carrie Utley, Barry Milgate, Greg and Marcia Lusted, Matthew Spoon, Historic Lex, and then a couple folks came in with PayPal things. Jeremy Skidmore twice. Thank you, Jeremy Skidmore, and Stephen Metzler. All you guys support us that way. So thank you for that. You know, people support us through Patreon. People go to Townsends Plus. Check out Townsends Plus. It's another great way to support us, and you know, you get kind of fun new material that isn't on YouTube. Check that out. Also, folks that are in Super Chat, thank you. And all you amazing folks that maybe you can't do it, maybe you can't help us out any other way, but you do help us out by watching those videos and suggesting them to other folks. That is a tremendous support. You wouldn't believe how much that makes a difference. So thank you everyone for all that you do to support us here on Townsends. I hope you have a tremendous weekend. Thanks for watching.